this lesson, you will be able to identify a wireless router and discuss some of its functions. Know the different technologies used to connect to a network, as well as those used to connect to a WAN or the internet. Understand why protocols are needed for communication between devices.
I'm so excited for tonight. I can't wait till everybody comes and everything else gets set.
Hey, we're back. Are you okay?
Yes, I'm all good.
Okay.
Well, we've got all the goodies for tonight, and man, am I getting excited. We are going unbound.
Unbound. That's a bit like unplugged, isn't it?
Yes, we are going wireless, and I can't wait to set it up.
You're forgetting something. Not only are you going to learn how to set up a wireless connection, but you're going to learn about things like microwave, satellite, radio, and/or cellular, and how they are used in WAN communication. You're also going to learn about some cool stuff like Wi-Fi, WiMAX, TCP/IP, Bluetooth, and VoIP.
But if we're going wireless, that means there are no telephone lines. So how will we make phone calls?
Well, once you've connected to the internet, I'll show you how you can connect to the internet and make phone calls for free using something called VoIP.
VoIP? What on earth is that?
Well, it's not a thing. It's Voice over Internet Protocol. And before you ask, a protocol is a kind of guideline for the way things must be done. The people who design devices that can communicate with each other and the programmers who write the communication software have to know what the rules are so that the devices know how to talk to each other.
Oh yeah, no, I've got it. My mom uses voice over table protocol. Like, Zamo, don't talk with food in your mouth.
Well, that's mom's for you. But with machines, it's different. You have to make sure that you can send and receive data at a certain speed, or make sure you're connected to the receiver before you start sending data.
I think I get the picture. When you send an email, the receiver doesn't have to be connected because he can get his email later. But when you make a phone call, the person you phone has to pick up the phone and connect before you can start talking. So that tells me they must be using different protocols.
Well done, young Miss Einstein.
Okay. So where do we begin?
Well, first of all, we need to connect to the router.
What exactly does a router do?
A router connects networks to each other, or it can be used to convert a LAN into a WAN, and in our case, we want the router to connect our LAN to the internet.
Awesome.
There's the router. All the cables we need to connect.
Ooh.
The router's main function is to allow networks of any architecture to communicate. They also reduce and manage traffic on networks, and they work out the best path or route for the data to travel on. Ta-da!
Now what do we do? How does the wireless connection work?
It doesn't use microwaves, does it?
What? Plug a computer into a microwave?
No, it doesn't use microwaves. But that's not completely out of the ordinary, because microwaves aren't only used to make popcorn. To communicate, two big towers face each other and send microwaves to each other. The only problem is that the towers must have a clear path between them in order not to block the microwave signal. But the equipment is very expensive and very big, so we're not going to be allowed to put it in our back garden. So instead, we'll use radio waves to connect to our service provider. How they connect to the internet is fortunately not our problem.
So that thing is really a radio?
Well, it's like a link to one radio station that fortunately lets us send stuff back.
Wouldn't satellites be better? That way, signals could get zapped up into space and there would be nothing blocking them.
Unfortunately, satellites use microwaves. The signal goes from a satellite dish here on Earth to a satellite that's orbiting around Earth. That satellite then bounces the signal back to somewhere else on Earth. But that's expensive and unreliable, and you would only use it if there's no telephone, radio, or cellular communication in the area.
Oh, like if we move to the Kalahari Desert.
Exactly.
So what about using cell phones to get the internet? Or is that a whole satellite space adventure thing too?
Remember those cell towers? Quite often, you see them disguised as trees. Those are called cell sites. They're like giant aerials a few kilometers apart. The signals go from the cell site to a telephone exchange. The exchange then sends the signals around the world by satellite, microwave, or cables. All you need to do is get a radio signal from the one closest to you and you're in their network because they're connected to each other using microwaves.
Okay, so Murray, enough of the teaching. Let's get our stuff set up, huh?
Brilliant. Right, let's see. Network standards. This is a set of guidelines telling devices like computers in a network how to communicate. Now guys, it's very important to have standards so that computers and networks can communicate with each other.
Do we have to set that up too?
No, fortunately, it's already been set up by the Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, or the IEEE. They make sure that all the guys who make these devices work to one standard. Otherwise, there'd be a huge mess.
What else does it say?
Well, I tell you what. Why don't you carry on reading there, Zamal, while I take a break?
Where did he go?
I have no idea.
Yes! I did it!
Aw, no fair. You took the chips too.
Don't stress. There's also more over here. Look.
Oh yes, Ethernet. Ethernet is the most used LAN communication standard at the moment. And soon comes Wi-Fi. Wireless fidelity is a set of network standards that tells us how two wireless devices must communicate with each other. It says here that Wi-Fi is the most publicly used form of communication, used in coffee shops and the airport and bookshops, you know. WiMAX, Worldwide Interoperability for Microwave Access, upgrade of Wi-Fi, and tells us how wireless devices must communicate over a bigger area. It also says here WiMAX is more secure than Wi-Fi.
Yes, and IRDA, which is Infrared Data Association, helps us transfer information from laptops and cell phones to a PC. In the home, remote controls also use infrared to turn TVs on and off and change channels. The problem is that, like microwaves, there can be nothing in between the two devices to block the signal. Bluetooth is used so that cell phones, computers, and keyboards can communicate with each other without a cable and a card. It has a range of 10 meters and can communicate through walls.
It sounds like Bluetooth is the best option because we don't have to be in the same room.
That reminds me, you were supposed to send me some of your new ringtones using your Bluetooth.
Oh, yes, relax, I will. But before that, there's one more wireless communication method that you need to know about. RFID. RFID is a standard that lets a network use radio signals to communicate with a tag attached to a person, animal, or an object.
That's pretty cool.
Well, let's get our Wi-Fi setup done on these machines, huh?
Whoa, before you start that, you're gonna need my help. Guys, just before you start, I just need to tell you about 3 protocols first, okay?
Okay.
TCP/IP, WAP, and VoIP. TCP/IP stands for Transmission Control Protocol, Internet Protocol, and is the standard protocol used on most networks. TCP/IP is a bunch of protocols that have different packages in one product. It's kind of like a box of chocolates. TCP, Transmission Control Protocol is the suite's main protocol and makes sure that reliable data transfer happens in a network. IP, Internet Protocol, is for communication with the Internet. FTP, File Transfer Protocol, helps transfer very large files from one computer to another. SMTP, Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, sends the email message from one server to another one and is used in a normal email situation. And Telnet lets you log on to a remote computer somewhere else and work as if both computers are in the same room.
I've heard the word switching being used. What does that mean?
Well, that's a technique provided by telecommunications companies, and it determines how connections are made and how data is transferred across a WAN. Packet switching is when messages are broken down into smaller sections called packets. The packets are then sent over the internet and then converted back into the original message again. This is faster than circuit or line switching. Circuit or line switching is a dedicated line or channel, and it determines how messages are put on and they're never broken up. Kind of like a telephone line.
Excuse me, guys. Who is this? Thank you for subscribing to Club Z. Your phone needs to be web enabled for you to download these games.
You haven't activated your WAP yet.
Well, what is a WAP?
It's not a WAP, it's WAP, Wireless Application Protocol.
Cool. So now I can have wireless on my phone too?
Yes, but it's not like having a computer. You see, your cell phone's small and it's not able to download whole web pages, so you can browse WAP sites. Now, WAP sites are smaller for downloading small things like games, ringtones, or checking out the weather.
Why would I want to check the weather?
Well, wouldn't you want to know what the weather's doing so that you can know what to put on in the morning?
Well, I can just look outside the window for that.
Guys, can you have this chat later, please? I'd like to get this set up so I can download Skype and talk to my sister in London before everyone arrives for the games and the party gets started.
Oh, no, Skype? Not something else we have to pay for?
Relax, Zamu. Our PCs have microphones and speakers, so it's free.
Well, how does it work?
Well, Skype is software that we can use to talk over the internet via VoIP. In Moroa's case, her computer dials up her sister in London and they talk to each other via their computers. It's way cheaper than a normal phone call. You can also Skypecast. That's when groups of people all talk to each other from different parts of the world.
So, let's download it quickly.
Skype helps you communicate using VoIP, or Voice over Internet Protocol. This works by sending your voice over the internet the same way that text is sent.
Cool. Skype is now set up.
Okay, guys, before we carry on, let's do a quick recap of all the things we've learned today. We've learned that routers allow networks of different architectures to communicate. They reduce and manage network traffic. They find the best path for quick data transmission. And you can connect to a network using a telephone line, microwaves, radio waves, or cellular technology. We also learned that network standards must be met and a protocol must be followed so that devices can communicate. And now, guys, here's your task for today. Create a wall chart diagram to show as many different ways of connecting to the internet as possible. Label each connection clearly and say which protocol is being used.
Well, that's it. The guys are here, so it's time to party and make some money.
Well, guys, that means it's time for me to get out of here. So, before I go, don't forget to check out our website, www.mindset.co.za/learn. So until next time, good luck with the task and keep well.